Eurovision is so important to Israel and their public image across the world that last year their president got involved to make sure they wouldn't be excluded from the competition. That's how important Eurovision is for Israel. They want the world to see the pretty young woman sing about Israel's suffering. Palestine has no voice at Eurovision, but Israel does, and this is how they want you to see them. But fear not, for a group of brave and bold contestants last year came together and promised they would stand for peace at the Eurovision Song Contest. Signatories included Ollie Alexander, Bambi Thug, and even the eventual winner, Nemo. But did they manage it? Did they actually get any message across to the audience? Well, Portugal's Yolanda painted her nails in keffiyeh patterns, which you can actually almost see if you go frame by frame in HD. After her performance, she called out, "Peace will prevail!" Okay, maybe not the most effective protest, but a good effort. Bambi Thug, on the other hand, went so far as to write the words "freedom for Palestine" and "ceasefire" in an ancient medieval Irish alphabet that can only be read backwards, knowing that anyone out there who could read ancient medieval Irish would absolutely get the message. Except unfortunately, they were told to change the text to keep the contest apolitical, and Bambi Thug obeyed, so the medieval Irish speakers in the audience didn't get the message. But the audience did get another message. At the end of their song, they said, which, okay, isn't a super clear message about Palestine, but a few people might have known what that referred to, so thank you, Bambi. The UK's Ollie Alexander, in a BBC documentary about his Eurovision journey, was brought to tears over the cruelty of being asked to stand against genocide. Sure, the documentary may make peace activists seem like the villains of Ollie's journey, but that doesn't mean Ollie wasn't going to do the right thing on the Eurovision stage. In fact, at the contest, he said, "Thank you, Europe and Australia!" Nothing at all. He did and said nothing. Even when he had lost the contest horribly and had nothing left to lose, he said nothing. Luckily, one of the contestants who signed the peace letter actually won the contest. Switzerland's Nemo was the first non-binary person to win Eurovision, showing that this competition really is all about representing minorities and bringing people together. So more than any other contestant, Nemo really had a chance to spread the message of peace. When presented the award, they said,
"I hope this contest can live up to its promise and continue to stand for peace."
Wait, that's it? Yeah, that's really it. No one, no matter how anti-genocide they claim to be, managed to say a single word about Palestine, all the while selling themselves as the good guys of Eurovision 2024. And you know what? Okay, in a way, it makes sense. Eurovision had banned any reference to the genocide. You weren't even allowed to bring in Palestinian flags. In fact, you weren't even allowed to bring in non-binary flags. As it turned out, Nemo had to sneak in their non-binary flag to show it in the green room right before winning. But, hold on. If you were able to sneak in a flag, Nemo, my fellow human, why didn't you sneak in a Palestinian flag like Iceland did in 2019? It's almost as if all of these people had decided to put their careers first and ignore the fact that this contest was an instrument of genocidal propaganda. I mean, this is pathetic. This is humiliating. Did anyone really think these people were going to do the right thing on the Eurovision stage? Of course they weren't. Bambi Thug had barely any followers before Eurovision. They built their entire career on a brand of helping Palestinians at Eurovision while not actually saying anything on stage and totally ignoring the one request Palestinians had for them: to drop out and boycott. There was never any chance that these contestants would be able to say anything about Palestine because Eurovision as an institution is so far up Israel's backside, they have two sets of rules, one for Israel and one for everyone else. Eurovision is rigged for Israel. And here are some fun examples to prove it. Number 1. Last year, the reason Israel's president got involved was because Israel was submitting a propaganda song about October 7th, explicitly breaking the rules to not politicize or instrumentalize the contest. When other countries had tried to submit political songs, such as Belarus in 2021, they had only one chance to fix it before being booted out. Israel, on the other hand, not only got multiple chances, they didn't even really change the lyrics much in the end, and it's still clear what the song is about. Not to mention how obvious it is that when your president gets involved, that this has probably become political. But Eurovision didn't care about that, and Israel got special treatment and was allowed to participate. Number 2, Russia was kicked out of the contest in 2022, with the Eurovision organisers, the EBU, explicitly stating that they were given the boot due to the unprecedented crisis in Ukraine, which meant that having Russia in the contest would bring the contest into disrepute. People don't like war criminals in their music competition. But not only was Israel not subject to the same treatment, but Eurovision went out of its way to lie and rewrite history to defend Israel, stating that actually they didn't kick Russia out because of Ukraine. They kicked them out based on a technicality, so actually, in fact, there's nothing they can do about Israel. They had no choice but to uplift Israel's propaganda song under pressure from the Israeli government. Whoopsie daisy. Unfortunately for them, they forgot to delete the original statement from the Eurovision website, so we can still see that this is fucking bullshit. Number 3. When Israel hosted Eurovision in 2019, they broadcast illegally occupied Palestinian and Syrian territories, pretending that they belong to Israel. Occupying these territories is a crime under international law, and Eurovision just allowed them to whitewash that crime to 180 million viewers across the globe. Great job, Eurovision. So much for being apolitical. Number 4. Last year, Joost Klein was disqualified in the middle of the contest for apparently making an inappropriate gesture at a camera person when he was being filmed without his consent. So, the Netherlands was just gone from Eurovision 2024. Okay, so that's that. However, the Israeli team was apparently constantly harassing people, filming them even without their consent behind the scenes, and the Israeli commentators were calling contestants things like Hamas supporters and sons of Amalek. And yet, they were not disqualified. The Norwegian band even had to ask for extra security because of the Israeli broadcaster, and Bambi Thug says the EBU told them privately that Israeli commentators did break the rules, but that's okay. Israel still went through to the final. Number 5. The EBU has previously banned broadcasters who failed to uphold media freedom, such as the Belarus BTRC. The EBU says journalists should be impartial and independent. And yet Khan, the Israeli broadcaster, is nothing but a mouthpiece for the Israeli military. They broadcast a genocidal song about how Israel will annihilate everyone in Gaza, and Khan's presenters have signed missiles headed into Gaza. They were spreading lies about hospitals, kindergartens, schools, and mosques in Gaza being Hamas headquarters. And every time Israel kills civilians, Khan reports that in fact Israel has killed terrorists. But the EBU has somehow decided this type of reporting is impartial and independent, so Israel can stay while Belarus is banned. Number 6. During Israel's performance last year, audience boos were apparently edited out and replaced by fake cheers. So despite audiences' explicit disapproval of Israel's participation, literally due to crimes against humanity, due to genocide, the record of that day has been altered, history rewritten in real time to convince the world that Europe approves of Israel's participation. Even the audience who paid to be there thinking they could protest in person by booing became complicit in this propaganda against their will. Number 7. But you would also think Europe loved Israel last year because they came second place in the televote. Wow. Except that this was also dodgy. The State of Israel's official social media accounts, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, posted content asking people around the world to vote for the song up to 20 times to try and win them the public vote. It was a massive campaign with Israeli embassies all over the world showing voting instructions and the government paying for targeted ads. The Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs publicly admitted to astroturfing the vote. The goal was to get people who would otherwise never even watch Eurovision to vote for Israel in a coordinated campaign. And the charts confirm that's what happened. The Israeli song wasn't charting anywhere, even in the countries which gave them 12 points, and where people were listening to other Eurovision songs. But afterwards, the Israeli media used this manufactured televote to prove that actually everyone supports Israel. The silent majority is in favour of their genocidal violence, actually. And with Eurovision literally editing the boos out, they played into that narrative. Number 8. If you're still wondering why none of the contestants were able to make any substantial gestures of solidarity with Palestinians last year, it's because they were being patted down airport style before going on stage to make sure they wouldn't bring on any Palestinian symbols. The contestants were basically locked in the green room to prevent any political props coming in. And all of this just to protect Israel. The whole contest was rigged to make sure no one could criticize Israel's participation, no one could even mention Palestinians, and the world would, for the most part, believe that Israel is fully loved and accepted at Eurovision and across Europe. Israeli journalists and politicians have both admitted that Eurovision is not just a music competition for Israel, it's a political advocacy tool. Netanyahu himself called the last Israeli Eurovision victory exceptional foreign relations work. Their government has no reservations in taking full advantage, sending political songs, the president meddling in the competition, the government paying to astroturf the televote, breaking every rule, and Eurovision just lets them. While Eurovision aired last year, Israel was bombing and slaughtering Palestinian civilians. But what was on the front page of BBC News the next morning? not the protests, not the bombings, but Nemo won Eurovision. The competition has been turned into a propaganda program for Israel, creating an image that Israel is just like all of these other countries and not a settler colony on trial for genocide whose prime minister is wanted for crimes against humanity. Eurovision would have you believe that Europe loves Israel, when in reality, their public image has never been worse. There have been huge petitions and protests calling it the Genocide Song Contest, complaints from participating broadcasters, major headlines calling last year's Eurovision controversial and more political than ever before. This is disrepute, and bringing the competition into disrepute is against Eurovision's rules. But they don't care about their own rules, not when it comes to Israel. And that should be clear to anyone participating. You can't be a voice for Palestine in Eurovision because Eurovision is pro-Israel. If you participate in Eurovision, you become a tool of Israeli propaganda. Period. And even the influencers are corrupted by Eurovision's rules so they can get their press passes. WeWeBlogs, the biggest Eurovision influencer, reports on the genocide only as if they're spilling the tea, and otherwise just treats Israel like any other contestant.
Oh, I really like this. This is so beautiful. This is so tastefully done.
Influencers all know that they have to tone down their criticisms of Israel if they want that precious access, and thereby also become complicit in this. We've also seen a lot of the fandom theorizing that because the Eurovision sponsor Moroccan Oil is Israeli, they dictate whether or not Israel stays in the competition, and therefore there's no point in boycotting while Moroccan Oil is still a sponsor. And while no reputable sources support this theory, even if you do believe that one of the biggest TV shows in the world is at the mercy of one shampoo company, this is just all the more reason to boycott the show, not an excuse to stop caring. Palestinians are very clear about Eurovision. If you want to help them, you have to boycott. Viewers shouldn't watch, participants should drop out, and fans and influencers should stop creating free promo. Cultural boycott is a well-established tool for resisting violence. When Palestinians are asking us to boycott Eurovision, they're asking us based on strategies that helped defeat apartheid in South Africa. You know what's weird? There's no rule against genociders participating in Eurovision, and that has to change. We are talking about real human lives here, people dying, children dying, mass slaughter, and Eurovision trying to convince Europe that actually we all support it. This is normal, this is fine. But in years to come, when you look back on these times, what do you want to remember about your choices when the world was on fire? Did you stoke the flames, or did you at least try to extinguish them?